So for this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this app. So it's going to be a reminders app. So when you open the app, the user is going to see this list. And then if they want to add a reminder, they can click that add button and then type in a name. So don't forget to remember. And then we can set a time. So let's say 7:15. Um, and then they just press save and it gets added to this list. And then when it gets to 7:15, the system, the operating system, iOS, will send the user a push notification telling them what reminder was due. So just wait 5 more seconds and it'll show up. 7:15, and there you go. So don't forget to remember. And then they can delete it by swiping like that. So another thing is if they add a reminder and they close the app and they reopen the app will be able to pull back the reminders that were set before. So it uses persistent data and it uses iOS's local notifications library. So I'll just close this and then we will try making it. So what you need is you just need XCode. And then obviously if you need XCode, then you need a Mac. But otherwise, you have all the tools you need. So we'll open XCode, create a new XCode project. Let me delete the old project so we can make it from scratch. And then we'll make it a single view application and we'll call it reminders. And then make sure the language is Swift and it's targeted for the iPhone and not universal or iPad because it won't work. And then we'll go next, and then we'll make it on desktop, sure. And there. So, let's start by setting up the interface. So this first view controller here that they put in as default, you can just get rid of it. So click on it, you can press the delete button on your keyboard, and that'll get rid of it. Because the first page we want the user to see is a table view. So we want that. And then we also want that little bar at the top that tells them where they are. So we'll select it, and it's the borders are blue because we're selecting it. And then we go to Editor, Embed in, Navigation Controller. And then now you see there's a Navigation Controller in front of it. And then also with the Navigation Controller, you want to set it as the initial view controller. So when the application loads, this is the first place it goes. And then also here on the table view, so table view is a list view. So it's that screen where you saw where you could swipe and you can see a list of notifications. And let's just call it reminders. Tell user where they are. And then here you can see prototype cells. So those it's basically the format of how the cells will appear once the table view is populated with a list of different elements. After that, we want to add that screen where they can add a new reminder. So we will search down here for just a view controller and put over here. And we also want this to be connected. So the segue here, so the transition or relationship between these two controllers should be present modally. And we also want to have a navigation controller here that tells the user what they're doing. So we'll do the same thing. So make sure it's selected. So the border is in blue. And then so go under Editor, Embed in, Navigation Controller. And it'll just slot this navigation controller in between the table view and the add reminder view. So we'll change the title to add reminder. And we should do some naming so the purpose of all these things is not confusing. So we have add reminders, and so these navigation controllers we want to name so we know what's happening. So we want the reminders navigation controller and the add reminder navigation controller, just to make things clear. And so this is basically the setup. Also, so with this navigation bar, because we had an add button, so we also want to add a add button. So down here in this bar, we want to search bar button item, and then just drag it into that right spot on the navigation bar, and then you have a button now, and then you can change this to add, and it gives you that system standard plus sign. So this should work, and actually this segu should actually be from the button. So we're going to redraw. That's not right. We're going to so it should actually happen like that. So when the user presses this button, this happens, and this all pops up. Okay, so we have our UI set up. This is basically all you need. Actually, we'll finish setting this up. So we need a UI label here. And then we can put it, let's just say, against these guides. So we don't want a label, we want a text box. This. So okay, text field. We want text field here, and then we'll just put it against these guides. And then to make sure that it renders properly on all the different iPhone screen sizes, we'll go here and we will pin it to the top. So this guy that we put it against, and then the other guy we put it against on the left, and then the other guy we put it against on the right. And we add the 3 constraints, and now it will always show up in that proportional area on the screen. So it'll be at the top against the navigation bar. Then we can also set placeholder text. So what do you need to remember? And then here we actually also want a bar button item, because it's going to be our add button, which that's not what we want. We want our save button, which will send the user back to this. And then also, to be able to select the date, we want a date picker. So it's this wheel thing that lets users select a date. So it's built in, really easy to use. And we'll just pin this against the text label here, and then also the sides, I guess. We'll add 3 constraints. Hopefully that's not an issue. Doesn't seem to be an issue. Okay. And now we'll set up how it saves notifications or reminders. So let's go to File, New, File, iOS source Swift file. And let's make an empty file. We'll call it reminder. And then it'll add it to your project right here. And we'll make a new class. So let's call this class reminder. So, and then here we have to start figuring out how to make sure it can save. Make sure it's the type of object that the system can save to persistent data. So we had to say that it's a subclass of NSObject and NSCoding. And then we'll add some properties. So var notification will basically be the notification object that was sent to the operating system. So in case the user deletes the reminder before notification goes off, it can tell this operating system to also cancel the notification. So it's a local notification as opposed to a push notification, because push notifications are sent from a server to the phone, whereas a local notification is scheduled locally by the app and not by some external source. So this is that, and then we'll give it a name, which will be a string, and a time. And the type for this will be NSDate, which is the standard format for handling dates and times in iOS. What's this error is getting me here? Oh, so I need to import UIKit for that to know what to do. Okay. And then we'll add some static variables. So these will just be the archive paths that will be used when the app tries to save a reminder. So we'll say static let documents directory equal ns file manager dot URLs for directory dot document directory in domains dot user domain mask dot first. So basically this points at the specific document directory for the app on the phone. So it's a separate section of the phone that the phone sets aside for the app to save stuff in. And then it's basically the first directory for that app, just to keep things simple. And then static means that it's not something, it's not an attribute for specific instances, but for everything. So you don't have to, you can call this without having to use a specific instance. So you can call it just by saying reminder.documents directory instead of an instance of reminder.documents directory. And then we need to further narrow down where to save it by making another static variable called archive URL, and it will be documents directory. So basically that thing we just found up here. Dot URL by appending path component. That seems right. Okay, and then we'll call it reminders. So it basically, so you know how you have a folder system and you have paths, and usually it's just like you divide you separate all the folders with a slash. So essentially it takes this path and then just adds a slash reminders to it. So that's just the standard spot where it will save all the reminders they decide to save to persistent data. And then to make sure that everything's saved consistently, you don't have to retype the keys, because you have to specify a type key or a property key for when the app decodes and encodes reminder objects to the persistent data. So we'll make an enumeration for property keys to keep everything standard. So make struct property key, and then these are also static. So static let name key equal name, static let time key equal time, and then static let notification key equal notification. So basically the same names that we gave our attributes up here. And then we need some initializers. So what this is going to do, so init, so in Swift you just use that to declare an initializer. So we'll have something passed in that's a string, which is name. Time will be an NS date. Notification will be a UI local notification. So when you're initializing the object, wherever the object was initialized would have already created a notification and sent it to the system before initializing the instance of a reminder. So it would already have this to pass in as a parameter. And then basically just easy stuff, just you know, set the same name attribute as that, and then it works. So self.notification equals notification. And then since it's a subclass of specifically this NS object, we also need to call the superclass's initializer for it to conform to NS object. And then we need a destructor just in case the user deletes their notification, their reminder before the notification fires. So we'll have a D in it. And it'll just cancel notification. So you'll see more of this sort of code when we get to sending the notification to the system. So we have UI application.shared application.cancel local notification, and we pass in the notification for our self.notification. So the system will cancel it. Also, if it already has fired, it'll still appear in their notifications list, like their iOS notification center. But so if they delete it, it'll also remove that missed notification from their notification center, which is something that an app should do. And then one last thing, so to conform to the NS coding protocol, we need to add a function encode with coder, a coder, NS coder. I'm not quite sure who came up with these names. So a coder dot encode object. Any object we want to encode name, and it'll be for the key of property key dot name key. And so this is why we made this here. So then we have a coder dot, and we just do the same thing again. Encode object. We will encode it as a we want time, and then for key property key dot time key, and then one last one dot a coder dot encode object notification for key property key dot notification key. So this handles encoding the object, or it tells the system how it should encode the object when you want to save it to persistent data. And then we have to have another one that does the opposite. So it's going to decode the object when you're loading it from persistent data. So this is going to be called a required convenience initializer. Required means that any further subclasses we make of reminder are required to have the same initializer. And convenience means that it basically helps handle if you want to pass in a different set of parameters, but then it'll like convert them to proper types and then call the main initializer up here. So it will be, it has the same parameter, or it has similar parameter. It's coder, decoder, nscoder, and it'll basically just do the opposite of what we did here. So it's going to be let name equal a decoder dot decode object. And the key will be property key dot name key, and then we'll let time equal a decoder dot decode object for key property key dot time key, and then let notification equal a decoder dot decode object for key property key dot notification key. And then it's giving me all these errors, but that's only because XCode knows that I haven't used them yet and just wants me to just not give them a name. But I will use them right now because I will call the initializer. So self.init name time notification. So these tags are basically the labels as we declared them up here. So see, I said that this was called name, and then so in Swift, it's proper format for you to, or it's proper practice for you to specify exactly what you're passing in. Oh, and I'm missing some stuff here because I need, when it decodes, it doesn't actually know what the type is. So I have to tell it, I had to force it to cast it as a string, and then force, no, not that, and then force this to cast the time to an NSDate object, and then force this to cast it to a UI local notification object. And then there's also another as where there's a question mark, and that just means it's optional, which means there's the possibility that once decoding it, it's going to find a nil value. But whenever we encode it, it's going to pass in things. So we can promise it that it's not going to find that. And I think that's all we need to do in this class. And I don't think I'd touch it ever again in this tutorial. So then we will go and delete this, because this went with that original view controller that we deleted back in the UI. Move to trash. And we will set up the table view that we saw. So that list of reminders that the user saw right when they opened the app. So we'll make a new file, and it'll be an iOS source Cocoa Touch class. And then we can say, we'll call it reminder table view controller. So you just put reminder and you select that it's a subclass of UI table view controller, and it'll autofill this end part in, which is nice. And then make sure language is Swift. And okay, that seems right. So it should add in right here, and it has all, and it pre-fills all these standard functions that table view controllers should have. So we have view.did_load, and it inherits. So this is its own class, but it inherits from UI table view controller. So view.did_load is called whenever it loads that view, and it will call whatever UI table view controller does in its view.did_load, and then you can just add in stuff to customize it in this function. So we need to add some properties because this also handles the data for this, for the list. So one of the properties we'll have is a list of reminders. So it's where it's going, or it's the list where it's going to retrieve the entries in the table view. So it will be a list of reminders. And then we also need a date formatter, because what this does is it handles formatting an NSDate object as a string. So you can specify how exactly you would like it to format an NSDate object. So you can tell it, I only want the weekday and the month, and you can tell them how you want the month. Do you want the month as a number? Do you want it as its full name? Do you want it in some other language? Do you want it in its abbreviated form? Stuff like that. So we'll just add that here because it's going to use that. And then we also want to load the locale. So that's basically based off of the user's default location settings. So if the user says, or like in iOS, the user is set to having, or set to say Eastern Standard Time, then it will, the locale will be probably, I think it's like English Canada or something, or English US. And then so it specifies like what language the date formatter should probably return strings as. So that's all we need as for properties. And then we need to further do some initialization of the date formatter and reminders here. So in view.did_load, and then so also when you load it from a template, they add these optional lines they think you might want. They're common but not mandatory things. So if you want to say have an edit button, which we don't in our thing, you can just uncomment this line. Or if you want it to save what was selected when it reloads from a different view, you can uncomment this line. But we don't want either of that. So we're going to keep specifying settings for the date formatter, and the locale will be locale, which we set up here. So it's the current locale of the device. And then we set other things. So like date formatter dot date style, we want that to be in medium style. So medium style means it will say November 23rd, 1937. So like that. Then we want to specify time style, and we'll say that we want it as short style. So it'll just say 3:30 p.m., nothing else. So no time zone, no seconds. Yeah. And that's it for now. I'll comment set more date formatter settings. And then we'll move on to let's see, the table view stuff. So a number of sections. So they're also warning you here that they didn't actually fill in this section properly, because how can you have a table view with only 0 sections? So it's going to have 1 section. And then so the number of rows in that section. Since there's only one section, you don't really have to worry about this variable. When you have multiple sections, you have to make sure you know which section you're, because different sections might have different numbers of elements. But since we only have the one section and the one collection of elements, we can say return reminders dot count, and then everything should be okay. Then we also want to uncomment this thing that they provide. So override function table view self row for row at index path. So this basically configures a cell and returns what the view should display for that cell when it tries to show it on screen. So we need to actually go back into the storyboard and change something so we can actually do this properly. So select the table view cell over in this sidebar here, and then give it a reuse identifier. So we will call it a reminder cell. And then back here, we change this reuse identifier to reminder cell. And then let's see, configure cell. Okay, so let's first load the reminder we're looking for. So let reminder equal reminders, and then we take the index path. So this includes the section and row that's been selected. There's only one section, we don't have to worry about that, so we just want index path dot row as the index for the element we want to fetch from reminders, which we declared up here. And that's all we need in this line. The warning it's giving me is just because I haven't actually used reminder yet in this function, but we will. So okay, so using the stuff in reminder, we'll set some stuff for that cell. And actually, we need to go back and change some more stuff. We're going to change the cell style to subtitle. So there's going to be a title and a subtitle. So the way that example app I showed you had it was it told you the name of the reminder, so what you had to be reminded of, so like buy onions or something. And the subtitle will show you the date, or the date and time at which that reminder was due. So we will say cell, so this current cell that we are making, cell dot text label. So we have to make sure there's a text label. So when I go to text, it's going to add a question mark here because it's not guaranteed that the cell has a text label, but it will. So equal reminder dot name. And then we want to say cell dot detail text label dot text equals due space, and then we add reminder dot, or we don't actually do that because we want to use a date formatter to return string. So date formatter dot string from date reminder dot time, and that should be okay. And then we should see no errors because now I've used reminder and nothing is wrong with this code. Then we also need this function. So override to support editing of a cell. So we'll uncomment this. And it has to do some quick stuff here. Where it will say okay, so let to remove equal reminders dot remove at index. It'll be index path dot row. So that just fetches what we're deleting, because if they're deleting it from the table view, we don't want them to see it again, so we have to delete it from our list of reminders as well. And also later on, make sure we don't resave it into the persistent data. So we will it already so it already deletes the removing, or I'm just gonna move this up here, and then we'll say to remove dot delete, and the sender would be self, because this is what is telling it to delete. And I think that works. I didn't actually use this line in my original thing, so I'm not sure if it works. Okay, otherwise that seems okay for now. And then here, we also have to, just below all the stuff, we'll add a section for the NS coding. So this is where it will retrieve or save stuff to the persistent data. We'll have a function called save reminders. And it's pretty short. Just let is successful save equal ns keyed archiver dot archive root object. Our object will be reminders. To file, what file do we want? We want, so this is where we use those static things that we had. Reminder.archive URL dot, I think it was path. Yeah, okay. Okay. And then we just want to say if is successful save, just to see if it actually worked. Then print saved reminders successfully. So this doesn't actually appear to the user, but it does appear on console, so it helps for when you want to debug things. So, and then else print loaded or failed to save reminders. And that's it for that. And then we have another function, and it's going to load reminders. So function load reminders. That's why this is doing that weird thing. Okay, so I forgot a bracket there. Okay. So load reminders, it is going to return a list of reminders, or it will return null, so it's optional. Because if there's nothing in that path for the directory, then it's going to return nothing. So it will just return ns-keyed archiver dot unarchive object. So basically the opposite of what we did for the other thing. Oh, ns-keyed unarchiver dot unarchive object with file, and we'll specify the path, which will be the same as above. And this is also forced unwrapped. Why does that not work? Oh, we have to tell it what type it's returning. So as optional, a list of reminders. So yeah, you had to remember to do this whenever you decode something. And then, okay, so, we will add that to the spots where we need to. So when it loads the view up in view did load, it should call that. So if let, so we want to safely assign, or we want to safely see if there's reminders to load. So basically, if let means that it will execute this code in these braces, if it successfully assigns something to saved reminders. So if it's nil, it won't execute this code. So we want to say reminders plus equals save reminders. Then we just want to say table view, not that. Or I'll say self dot table view dot reload data. Okay. And then also we want to tell it where it needs to save when we delete things. So that was what we were missing up here. So we want to say just save reminders. So where does that go? That goes here. We just put at the end. So it'll just save. So now when it saves it again, this it saves the reminders list again. The reminders list isn't going to include that thing that we deleted. So yeah. And I think we're okay. Or we should be okay. Probably. It seems all right. And then we can delete this part because we're not going to support inserting. Or we will, but it's not going to be through the table view. It's going to be through that separate view. Now we are going to we need to actually link the table view. So we'll select it again, go to tab number 3, and we'll tell it this table view should be connected to reminder table view controller. And now they're linked. So it does all that background stuff for you. And then we're going to add another file. Oh, that's not what I meant. Add a new file. And it's another Cocoa Touch class. And it's going to be for that page that lets the user insert a new reminder. So we'll call it the add reminder. And it's not a table view controller. It's just a regular view controller. And so add reminder view controller in Swift. Create. And there we go. So we have that. And this is going to handle some more stuff. So, this is going to have a few things. So we added those three elements to the UI. So we're going to click on this button here, the like Venn diagram thing. What do they call it? If I hover over it, assistant editor. So you go to main.storyboard and then select that view controller, this view controller, the add reminder view controller. And then we actually should tell it that it's connected to this one. So when I select it, so it automatically figures out that since we're on this view controller, it's linked to this file. We want to edit this file. So the reason they have this is so that you can do stuff like link these elements to the UI. So I'm going to hold down Control on the keyboard and just drag this into the class. So it's going to be an outlet for a UI date picker, and let's call it time picker because it's more focused on a time and not just a date. So time picker, and then we also want this text box. And then so this is going to be an outlet for a text field, and we will call it let's call it reminder text field. And last but not least will be the save button. So okay. And I didn't drag it to the right spot. So you had to make sure the line isn't, see how when I drag it in between these two, the line goes thin, because it's almost as if it thinks I want to insert it into these lines of code or something. But so you have to make sure it's this longer line, so it's in the same spot. So save button. So we'll call this. Okay, so that's all the things you have to connect. Then in view did load, we need to do some stuff. So additional setup after loading the view. We'll set. So there's a few things. Oh, this also has to be a subclass of UI text field delegate. So it's delegate for this text field that we have here. So we'll say self dot reminder text field dot delegate equals self. So this is the delegate for that text field. And then we will also set current date time as the minimum date for the picker. So you shouldn't be able to set a time in the past as when this reminder was due. So we'll say time picker dot minimum date equals ns date, and then time picker dot locale will equal ns locale dot current locale, and that's all we have to do here. And then we just have, this is an easy class. We just have to do some things like func check name. So we just want to disable save button if the text field is empty, because that can cause errors. So let text equal reminder no text field dot text or that. So we'll try to find it. If it finds a nil, it'll just set it to this empty string literal. And then so save button dot enabled will equal if will be not text dot is empty. So if it is empty, then this entire thing will be false, and the save button will be non-enabled or disabled. And then we will have another one called check date to make sure the date in the picker view is valid. Disable save button if the text field is text field. If the date in the date picker has passed. So basically, if they take like more than a minute on this page, then they could choose that minimum date, and it would have been in the past. So, okay, not the right spot. So, if ns date, and we're initializing it, so this is basically set to the current date dot earlier date, and then you compare it with another date, which will be the date currently in the time picker. And then it will return whichever day is earlier, whether an NS8, so the current date, or the date that you passed in is earlier. So if it equals time picker dot date, which means that the time picker is somehow earlier than right now, then it's not valid. And so save button dot enabled equals false. So I could have rewritten this as something more condensed like that, where I put the actual expression there, but oh well. What else do I have to do? We have to, so we did subclass it as a UI text field delegate, so we should include some of that. So function text field should return. So if the text field returns, so if someone types stuff in the text field and presses return, what should it do? It will we'll just tell it to hide the keyboard. So and the code for that is resign first responder and then return true. Okay. And then we also need another thing. Okay, we need text field did end editing. And this will say, it'll first check name. So that will check whatever is in there, and then set the save button to enabled or disabled according to that. And then we also will just, change the title and navigation bar to whatever they just entered, so that the name of the reminder that they're currently adding shows up instead of the add reminder title. So navigation item dot title equals text field dot text. What else? Okay, func text field did begin editing. So if they start typing some text field, we'll disable the save button. Okay. And then we need to add a function for when the date picker finishes editing. So we are changing, it's going to be a action connection, and it will be called time changed. So the time was changed, then this will fire. So all it has to do is check date. And then we should have a cancel button too here. So so we want a bar button item, and then we will drag that into this left spot. And then we also will just before we do that, we'll just change the type to cancel, and that's just in line with the system design. So we will connect it. And what does it do? We just connect it action, and it will be cancel. That's how we'll call it. Nice and simple. Dismiss view controller animated. That is exactly what we want. And there's no code for it to do other than that. Okay. Some more stuff. So this next stuff that we're going to do, it will be under navigation, and it's going to handle going back and forth between this view and the other view, and passing the reminder the user just made into the reminders list on the table view. So we are going to uncomment this whole section, and we'll just use this, and I think we can switch back to or I don't want this, I want the other thing. So we'll switch back to this, and okay, so when you check to make sure it's the save button that's sending us to sending the segue here. So if save button equal sender, so the triple equal sign is different from the double equal sign, where the double equal sign checks if the value of the two operands are the same. The triple equal sign checks if the actual if the two references are actually pointing the exact same thing. Because if you have two save buttons that have all the same attributes, they might be equal to double equal, but we had to make sure it's the exact same save button that we were looking for. That's the sender. So we have let name equal. So now we're just going to build the reminder that we're going to pass to the table view. So reminder text field dot text. That's going to be the name of our reminder. Time will equal time picker dot date. And then we'll build a notification to pass to the system. I can't spell. Okay. And let notification equal UI local notification. And it's going to be initialized as an instance. And then we're going to set things like the alert title. The alert title will be reminder. Notification dot alert body, and we'll say don't forget to, and then we'll include whatever the name of the notification was. So if it was buy onions, it would say don't forget to buy onions, and then an exclamation mark for emphasis. And then we'll tell it when to fire. Notification.fire date equals time. And then one last thing, notification.sound name will be the default one. So UI local notification, default sound name. Okay. And now we schedule it. application dot shared application dot scheduled app. No, yes. Schedule local notification. No, schedule, not scheduled. Schedule. This. Okay. Schedule local notification. We pass in the thing that we just built. Notification. So we're passing in this whole thing to the system. And actually, when we do it this way, in time, so time period.date, there's actually a hidden seconds field that you can't see. So when you do it just with this, the notification will actually fire not exactly when the minute happens. So because there's a hidden second, but it will fire within the minute. So if I set it to 8:16, it will fire between 8:16 and 1 second before 8:17. But I'd rather that it fired right when we want it to. So let's redo this. So let's say let time equal time period dot date, and then let time interval equal ns day, or oh wait, time dot, I think it's interval, time interval since reference date. So reference date is the reference date for all NS data objects, and I think it's like January 1st, 1970 at like midnight, 0 seconds, 0 milliseconds, stuff like that. So that's what this is going to return, and we're going to do more. So we're going to floor it after. So the time interval is basically just an integer representing the number of seconds since January 1st, 1970. So we're going to divide it by 60. We want the nearest minute, and we want to multiply it back by 60 because we want it in minutes. So basically dividing it by 60 and flooring it rounds it to nearest minute, and we multiply it back because we still want in seconds. I don't need those brackets. And now we're going, this should be a var now because we have to mutate it. So time is going to equal ns date dot ns date, we initialize it, so it's time interval since the reference date, which will be time interval, and this will round it to the nearest minute. So yeah, now it'll fire right at the strike of whatever minute you set it to. And then after we send notification, we also have to initialize the actual reminder. So reminder equals reminder all these things. So name, time, notification. Basically all we need. I think that's it. Okay, it should work. Oh, you know why? We're missing this, because this is an actual reminder. So we need a thing to represent the actual reminder that the user is creating. So it's going to be an optional reminder, and now this error is going to go away. Right. And then we need to include this here because it's optional. Okay, so then we have to do the same thing when the table view controller is receiving information from the add reminders controller. So that would be what is it? That would be our own thing actually, so it's not already in here yet. We need to go to the add reminders navigation controller, and we want to connect the save button to the exit. Why is it not letting me do that? Oh, I think I'm supposed to code it in first. That's the order I did it in. So what do I have to do? I have to do IB actions. This is that thing that you see in front of whenever you link something by dragging and dropping from the storyboard. But now we're manually doing it. So we're going to call this segu an unwind to reminder list segu. And the sender should be just a UI storyboard segu. And then what do we have to do here? We have to do if let source view controller. So we have to make sure there's a, so whenever we say if let, it's if we are able to safely assign, in this case, sender dot view controller, source view controller. Oh, it did suggest it, didn't it? Source view controller as, and it's optional, an add reminder view controller. And if it successfully is able to do that, we will tell it to go and, oh, we also need to make sure, we also want to see if we can assign reminder as source view oh wait, okay, yeah, no, this should work. So sender, or no, okay, and we have to if let that equals that, and reminder equal source view controller dot reminder. Not quite sure why it's not working. Okay, that is why. Okay, so add a new reminder to our list of reminders because it's the table view. So let new index path, because we need to, it needs to know where it should go when we add to the list. Let new index path equal ns index path dot, or in ns index path index, or index path for row reminders dot count in section 0, because there's only one and this is 0 based. So that's going to be our new index path, and reminders dot append our new reminder, so that's easy. Table view dot insert rows at index paths, and it takes a list, but the list is only going to have our one reminder. Or wait, oh, it takes a list of index paths, sorry. So it should just only include our new index path. And do we want animation? Yes, we do. We want it to appear at the bottom of our list. And then save reminders. So now it's going to resave that list to persistent data, and table view dot reload data. And okay, now we should be able to go back and connect it and unwind reminder list. And now it's here. Now it works. And I think we can try running the app now. It's a good thing. Laptop's almost out of power, so and that's going to suck up all that power while this simulator starts up. Let's go and open it. And we didn't put anything on the splash screen, so that's why it's blank. But look, we have the list. We can click this. It appears. What do I need to remember? I need to remember to save this screen recording after I'm done, and hopefully it doesn't die by then. Press return and see the navigation title changes to that. The save button re-enables. Oh, I should. Okay, 8:26. Then we'll close it, and then we'll just wait until 8:26. So that'll take like a minute. Let me just check on my phone. Okay, I have like 25 seconds. 20 seconds. 15 seconds. 10 seconds. 5 seconds. And then right about now, and nothing happened. Okay, what is wrong? June 14. We can delete it. It does not like deleting it. Why does it not like deleting it? Oh, I know why. Okay, so let's quit. I forgot to do an entire section of the app. So, one problem is, in iOS, you need to register the app and make sure the user gives you permission to send them notifications. So, in here, our app delegate is the thing that handles the entire app. So when the app opens, when the app goes into the background, stuff in here gets run. So, function application, this is just when the app loads for the very first time. So we're going to say application dot register user notification settings. Yes, okay. And in here we'll initialize a UI user notification settings object. And we will want to be able to send dot alert. So alerts, badges, and sounds. And there's no categories really need to specify for our notifications. So that's it for that. And then what else do we need to do? Why is it not like this? Am I missing bracket? Yes, I am. Okay. So function application. I think that's it. That might not actually be the thing that's causing the error. Okay, wait, let me just quit simulator. Let's use a 6. Let's use something lower power so that my Mac doesn't die. So let's use an iPhone 6. And I need to resize this, say 50%. Okay. Okay, so starting up, and here it prompts us to give it permission, and then we want to try to add a reminder, so say 8:30. So I want to remember. I'll close the app. We'll see if this works. There we go. Now it's working, but it has this optional remember thing happening, which I know how to fix. So what we want to do is, so when we schedule it, it's in the add reminder view controller. We need to put this here because name is an optional string, and we just put the exclamation mark to say that, to promise it that it won't be nil. So, and then when we try running this again, you can say remember again or something, and save, close the app, and wait a bit more. Right about now. There we go. And now it works. And then, let's see, we're still getting this error here. And it's because of that weird way trying to delete the reminder here. So this doesn't work. So I just have to do reminders dot, or I already did that, didn't I? Yeah, so okay. Yeah, we'll just leave it like that. It'll be fine. And then if you try running it, it should be okay. There we go. Look at that. Okay, and you can see in the console it says saved reminder successfully. Okay, so that's it. This took a really long time.